Yeah, Jack.
Jack's always very amenable, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very.
Talk about whatever.
Yeah,
He's your mate.
Everyone is my mate. You know, let me tell you something. You know, like sometimes
he talks easily to people. You know, he's much better than me.
No. You know what? It's like when we went to Mark Hutchinson's thing, the film thing.
Yes.
Let me tell you, I was so amazed and proud in terms of how you managed to galvanize everyone to be in the same space.
Yeah. He did it, no problem.
Because it's like it's not an easy feat.
No, it's not.
Especially here in Sheffield, knowing how our people are in Sheffield.
I think it's a lot to do with Mark. I think it was also. I think it reflected Mark, the audience there. It was a range of people there, wasn't it there? But it reflected, if you knew Mark well, those were that range. He had all sorts of different people who he knew, different interests and all that sort of stuff there, which was great. So it wasn't that difficult. Once you just sort of like
touch base with
people there, and then people wanted to come along. And you know, what was really good was... I'd seen it before, but when you watched it a second time and you had an audience, where at least half the people were, you know, of the same origin as Mark and had the same experiences as Mark there were bits of it there where actually you could have substituted his photo for all of us. Every one of us had those photos.
Those experiences growing up.
Absolutely,
No, very true. I know. I got that from it myself, definitely. But he was a bit of a unique character. He was very diligent, and like I said, that's how I met you guys. And I don't think that fateful down the train, good day for me. And that was brilliant. So that's
how did you get to know him?
I was on a train going to Manchester, and I jumped on it where I live at Door, and it was a packed train, but there was one seat that nobody was sitting, and it was next to Mark. So I sat next to him. I left my wife stood up.
Black guy sitting down on his own.
So I said, I'll sit next to it. I'll sit here. And as we do, we sat down, and a couple of stations later, I thought, so where are you off to then? What do you do? What did you do? And he said, we're going to Edale. I said, what's at Edale? What's Edale? So he told me they're going walking. There's a group of them on the train. And I said, what do you do? And so we got talking all the way to Edale, and he then invited me to an event at the university.
It was the 10th anniversary.
10th anniversary. We were talking about prostate. And so I said, you know what? I went home and I said to my wife, I said, I met some guys on the train and blah, blah, blah. They were really interesting. I'm going to go to this event. Even though on that night when you had the event, I had somewhere else to go, but I made sure I got there first. And I was so impressed. And that's it, essentially.
And that's over 10. That was 2014, wasn't it? You know what I was remembering the other day?
Was it 2014?
2014.
Wow.
Because the following year we went to Ben Nevis, and I was remembering going to Ben Nevis, and I was talking about Christmas, and I was saying about making a breakfast, which is a breakfast which my mum used to always make. And I remembered that actually when we went up there, my brother and I made that breakfast, which was bacon, salmon, like it was a rundown. And Alan brought hardo bread.
Wow.
Yes, and we had that on the before we went walking. So and there was 23 of us, and it was great experience.
Just interesting enough, what month was that, if you remember, the talk...
June.
Was it June?
It was on my birthday. So it was the 21st of June.
2014 has a lot of significance for me for lots of reasons. I won't go into it here. And so that I was interested as to why I went on that walk. There's a reason why it meant more to me to go to that thing than it did another time. And that's why the timing worked because of couple of reasons.
So you're part of the walking group with Donald.
I only joined the walking group because of that day of the train. So then I joined the walking group. So I've been walking. I don't walk every month, but I walked for more than I've ever done.
You walked for quite a while, didn't you?
I did.
Him and Noida. Noida walked more than you, I think.
She did. That's what got me into walking.
Is it?
Yeah, because I was just a sports person. I ran around the pitch. I didn't walk. So walking was
football.
That. Football, that was me. I was a football player. So that was me.
All right. So You will introduce, our guest today because...
I'm doing the introductions today.
Might as well,
Well, we've got David Campbell here today. And
started?
We've started now.
All right.
We've got David Campbell here today. And Longani and I have been wanting you for a long while to come along there because, when you say David Campbell to people within the African Caribbean community in Sheffield, so many people know you and so many people there are so positive about you in terms of just you as a person. And I think for me, the thing which has always been sort of like really, really strong in terms of knowing you, and I only got to know you after that walk in 2014. We bumped into one another in Shower Vale.
Yes.
After you came to the event.
Yes.
And we talked for ages there, is your humility.
Right.
Yeah, that's, you just basically, it's so easy to talk to David.
Yeah. That's it, isn't it?
There's never any airs and graces.
Yeah, you never stop talking.
Never stop talking. There's never airs and graces, basically. They just it's just simply, you talk, and you're just getting a good conversation about whatever it might be. And there's usually so much you can talk about, and, I went to see something, and I was talking to Daryl Hall today about this, I went to see this film called Conclave. And at one point, it's all about the Pope and the sort of like they're electing a new Pope, and he says between certainty and doubt is mystery, but for me it's curiosity. And I've always found you very curious. You're always interested in other things, other people, other things, and just challenge yourself there. So that's really quite an exciting thing when you meet somebody who's like that there, because it actually prompts you as well a bit as well.
Yeah, I hope so. That's good. It's good to hear. Thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
very good.
So we're really pleased to have you here today.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
I think for me, I think I've just seen you around the city. You've been around for like forever, and the gym also. And the gym also. So it's like, when you see somebody who looks like you, it's like there's always that there. They're not.
Been around a long time.
Because you're very much a part of the Sheffield black community. Born and raised there in Sheffield there, and obviously lots of people in the city there. And one of the things about this particular podcast there is really about how we as individuals, as members of a community there, how we just sort of like live our lives to the best of our abilities there. And we were talking earlier there about not feeling too bound, because that actually you've got opportunities, you're able to take opportunities, you're able to live. And that's one of the things which I've always found interesting talking to you. So I've always been a positive person, and I believe in stretching boundaries, and where I'm from is in Burngreave, and I love my Burngreave. And I believe in stretching boundaries, and the world is, abundant. And I think I want to get my share before my time's up. So I've always believed in travelling different places. All around Sheffield, I kind of know different communities from the north, the south, the east and west. And so I feel kind of privileged in that regard. Because you and I were talking once, and I've kept it in my head for the last few months now, which is, I said to you about being scared. And about when I was younger, I was scared. And you sort of gave me a couple of stories about being scared. Because actually, I felt comfortable to tell you. Because, we're in the barber shop. Because so often, to say you're scared is like, oh, you're weak. But no, I mean, we've all, it's a human condition to be fearful, and I've had my share in my professional work and so on and so on. But and it's really difficult at the time. But once you get to the edge of that fear and confront that fear, it's amazing how much you get past that, and you realise you start to grow even more. So I think one of the things I've noticed in life is, throughout all my experiences, is people are frightened of rejection and people saying no to them. And in my job in my sales job that I used to do for 30, 40 years, that was just part of the job. Because you tell me about when you started out on your own. And you went to Coventry. I did. I thought that was quite a powerful story. I went to Coventry to see some customers. I'd never seen them before. They were a typical kind of working men's club.
I'd got up early morning, which I always did. I got up maybe automatic. I never had an alarm clock, by the way. So I've always been able to just get out of bed at the right time. So I got up at 6:30, got dressed, on my way to Coventry, I think it was 7:30. And, you know, I got there and got to the front door of this building, and basically I froze. And I thought, I can't go in that building. I was fearful about what was on the other side, the kind of people I was going to meet. And I sat there for half an hour in my car, and literally I just drove home. And I drove home. You know, it's a long way to go, Coventry.
Yes.
It's an hour and a half journey down the M1, M69. And I went home, and I was a bit upset with myself. But I also knew I had to go back.
Yeah.
To
Just on the
confront
two
that
things
fear.
there. Upset about yourself.
I was upset with myself. It's not the first time I've been upset with myself.
We all do.
Yeah. I've had many times, always, lots of times. But I remember that stuck out for me because I thought, you know, this is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. You'd been in the job 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't the first time I'm confronting that. But for whatever reason, I just couldn't do it. And I drove back home, upset with myself. But I also knew I had to go back, and that was important to me, to go back. So I never won. Even now, I get challenges every single day. I'm never one to say I'm not doing that because I'm scared of that kind of problem or situation. I'll always confront it.
Because some people might, if they know you're a successful business person, that they might see the successful business person and not see that actually
the human.
It's a normal thing.
The normal thing to feel, isn't it?
I could probably tell you lots of other situations where I've been frightened and not knowing what to do, but I confront my fears and I'm not afraid to talk about them. And you know, so that's important to me. I'm vulnerable. I self-deprecate a lot. I talk about myself. I laugh at myself. I realise that I'm not what sometimes people might think. Well, he's got it all together. No, I haven't actually. But I think it's okay to be like that.
Because that's actually one of the things. When we were at the event last week with the at the university, and where the group of young men there, and they were asking you lots of questions. Lungani and I were sort of sat away, and there was you, there was Angela, there was Delroy, and these young men were so rapt in attention. And for me, it was a beautiful moment because they were some of the questions they asked you were sort of like nearly technical economic type questions, and you were coming back with life.
Oh yeah.
I think because at its core, there's, regardless of whether you're a PhD student, whether you left school, there's life in front of you, and you're going to have to confront it, whoever you are, whatever level. So I suppose I was trying to give him the kind of challenges, the human challenges, normal challenges that we're all going to face, and just saying, you know, you need support, you need help sometimes. We're all vulnerable, we're all weak, and as long as you build a good team of people who can talk to around you, and a support network, which is really important, I think. Then I think most of the challenges, most of the problems we think about never really happen. If you think about that, they never really happen. It's a psychological thing that's going on inside your head. And you've got to have the ability to say, shut up to yourself. That's not going to happen. So and you know, we tomorrow, we get to tomorrow, and we realise actually it didn't happen. And so I try and encourage them in that way, to be honest with you.
Because I mean, what I could see with those young people there, I mean, it's fantastic. Well, I think it was a great event there in terms of these young people there. There was an intergenerational aspect to it.
There was.
Where they were young and they got all that energy, but they're also quite vulnerable as well. You could see it there, but they were listening. You know, they were asking questions and listening.
But one of the things that I sort of realized is maybe there's, I think I mentioned this afterwards, that there seem to be, as much as there are certain groups where young people can come and congregate, you know, we got the One Faith and the Man Talk over the other side in Sakuma. I think if you look at it generationally, my generation, I grew up around the elders. You know, you had those people and you knew where they gathered. So if you needed that kind of to hear something, you will go and hang around. But I think there seems to be something missing in Sheffield now in terms of spaces that people can go and just
I think that's quite modern society as well, in the sense that actually generations seem to be so stratified. You know, there's that age group, then there's another age group, then there's another age group. Whereas maybe when we were growing up, because you had to have more communal space, you You know, so for instance, you know, people talk there, for instance, which is, you know, maybe a strange example there, but Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
But when we're growing up, when you've got one TV, you all have to be in one room.
Yeah.
And there'd be all sorts of conversations going on in that one room. And if your dad's friends came in and then went into the front room, and if you were fortunate to be able to sit in there with them, you could learn a lot. I mean, that's how I learned. And everything I learned about Jamaica and back home was listening to parents talk.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with what you both said, but one of my big things was I like being around young people. I really make a point.
Yeah.
Most of the people I speak to on a daily basis are between 20 and 30 years old. And I love that they're telling me things and I'm showing them things and I'm guiding and supporting. So I really have this affinity with young people.
Yeah, because you've been a mentor for, you know, if you want to use that word mentor, but I talk to some people and they'll say, oh yeah, my son went to talk to David, that he's got an idea, he's got this, he's got that.
How that started was I was in London one day and I was in Mayfair and I'd done my work and I was sat there by myself and I just thought, beautiful as Mayfair is and living a great life, I thought, this is not enough for me. I need more than this. So I got in touch with the school actually. I got in touch with Abiel Grange School and said, listen, I need to come and talk to you because it was the closest school to my house. They never bring me back, actually. So I thought, forget you. I'll go.
And my children went to Abiel Grange. A loss.
And I remember reaching out to them and and I thought, no, I'll go to the school that I went to myself. So I got in touch with them. And for years I was a governor, worked with a lot of their young people, then the King Edward School, Tapton School, and lots of other schools in Sheffield. I'll just turn up. Well, I've got my job. In the middle of the day, I'll just say, forget my job. Let me go and talk to these young people. So that was piqued my interest because I knew that there was, and also they would put you sometimes with kids who weren't doing so well, and I did that for years. But then I had the thing, no, I want to work with kids who are motivated, who are interested. What about them? I don't want them to be left to one side. Let's not forget about these kids. So I made a point of seeking them out, and they would ask me questions every day about business and life. And I decided to create this group called Street Smart Business. And that's how my group came along. And it's really an informal group where they literally every day I get a question from young kids and I introduce them to people I know, my contacts. Because I think that's just something where we keep our things so close to ourselves. And I thought, no, I want to share all my contacts. So I've given my contacts that I've built up over 30 years to young kids and say, go and talk to that bank manager and tell them I sent you. Go and talk to that surveyor. Go and talk to that, whatever it is, that builder, that architect. Tell them Dave sent you. And it gets you through the door. And after that, you know, so that I do that on a daily basis. And I'm really
So what's it bring for you then?
Sorry?
What does it bring for you?
Oh, unbelievable satisfaction, you know, that to know that someone who had lost a father, for instance, years before, I'd built some houses and I said, listen, this is what I want to do with the money. Buy a house, for instance. Because I know he'd wasted the money. He was only a young kid. And today he tells me I've got 3 houses now. He's 25 years old. And so I watch these kids go through, young kids, and go through black, white, Asian, whatever, it doesn't matter. I watch them go through these changes. Adolescents, when they don't really know what's going on. So I think that's probably one of my great satisfactions, being able to talk to young people and being around them.
What I'm curious about is, so if you take us back to, you said you grew up in Burngreave.
I did.
What was life like the time you...
Idyllic. It was the best life I could have had. I've got 6 brothers, 2 sisters. I'm from my father, obviously Jamaican immigrant into the country in the late 50s, and my dad was a steel worker, my mum was a nurse, but all around us was just playing with my brothers and just having I used to go to church a lot back then. My dad was in fact the church of Nursery Street now started in my dad's house in the late 50s. That's how it started, and then it went to Catherine Street, then it went to Vestry Hall, back to Catherine Street, and then now at Nursery Street where they are now, that's where I grew up. I was kind of opening the church at 10 years old, Sunday school. So I had a lot of elderly people around me at the time. My father was a deacon in the church, so I would follow him around a lot. So and he was very popular, a very social, talkative guy, everybody liked him and whatever. So I kind of watched a lot of his behaviour subliminally, picking things up. So that was important to me. So that's how I grew up. It was football and sports and no troubles whatsoever.
Oh, so you say you got 6 brothers and
2 sisters
and 2 sisters.
Yeah.
And where are you in the pecking order? Are you
third? Ish, depending on what day I say I've got another brother in Jamaica. I don't know about. I'll find out later on. But yeah, I think I'm third. So
Sheffield for you was okay. I mean, it's not like
Sheffield for me was like the centre of the world, and I still believe. I love Sheffield. My friends went to London in the 80s.
A lot of people would leave, wouldn't they?
And I said I'd never leave. And it was lonely at the time when all your friends are going to London. And one of my friends is in 91. I remember him saying he's an accountant, very successful accountant in London. And he said to me, "What are you going to do, Dave, when you outgrow Sheffield?" That was in 91. And I said, "I'll never leave because I'll never outgrow it. I might travel in different places, but I won't ever leave Sheffield."
Yeah.
So what? So take us from school to to now.
Right. Okay.
Well, that's a big.
I know it's a big jump. No, it's a big jump because then if I say it that way, it's sort of.
I've told the story numerous times, but I'll tell it again. So obviously, sport was the big thing. I was a football player. Loved football. I loved football. School, like normal, and most kids, you think of leaving school at 16. I was an average student.
Yeah.
I got to 16, and all my friends were leaving school. I then was following my friends. I guess I'm leaving school at 16. I went home to sign some papers. This is in 1976.
Yeah.
I went home and I said, "Dad, you need to sign this paper. I'm leaving school." He basically said, "You're not leaving school." He said, "What are you doing this?" So I said, No, we're leaving school. "No, you're not leaving school. You're staying at school," basically. So he made me stay at school. My father. It was the summer of '76. I don't know if everyone remembers, but it was very hot summer.
Oh yeah, there's a lot that has been.
Oh, it was beautiful.
It was the best summer ever.
You and I are the same age because I was revising for my O levels in that summer, and it was just endless days. When they talk about endless days,
it was beautiful.
It was like that.
But I cried a lot in that summer as well because I had to go back to school.
Oh, you didn't want to go back?
I didn't want to go back to school. Yeah, my father wouldn't sign the paper to leave, so I knew I was going back to school to do A levels. You know, in '76 I did my A levels. I started 2 years A levels in Hindhouse School. Loved the school as well, so I did history and English literature. But it was in the end when I look back now, it was the best 2 years I've ever had at school. Yeah. The reason why is because I had to knuckle down and do some work, and I learned to read properly. When I say read, I'm talking about I studied Shakespeare, I studied John Steinbeck, I did all the great writers of the time. I started to read James Baldwin, and it really started, and reading became something I've never ever stopped doing, and that's helped me so much in my life. So that's what I did. I did that, and I wanted to be an accountant for some strange reason, because I thought accountancy was a profession, and I was half decent at maths.
And we were being told at that time there, get yourself either a good trade or a profession.
Yeah, so 3 of us from the same street, this is incredible, in 1976, 3 black guys from the same street decided, because they didn't have accounts course at the school, we took ourselves to night school, at Parsons Cross at Chaucer School, and did accounts. So me, a guy called Danny Edwards, Paul Edwards, his brother, and Vincent MacDonald, they all did. We went to night school and did accounts, which is quite, in 77-ish, that was pretty unique, to be getting on a bus to go to Chaucer, rough area, tough area.
Oh yeah, it was.
Tough.
But when I first came here,
exactly. I could tell you stories about that with football, but that's what we did. And they went on to do accounts and teachers and whatnot.
It's interesting there, because my brother came up, he's a year older than me, and we went to sixth form together in Nottingham.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of black students at this sixth form. And when he came up in April, we were talking, and we were remembering all these people. And I said, did he become an accountant? Did he become a lawyer? Did he become sort of this, that, and the other? I said, yeah, he did. And actually, there was a positiveness about things at the time. We thought that, you
we were just emerging.
We didn't know that actually along the way, many of us wouldn't.
Yes.
But at that point in that time, that 16, 17, 18, we did take on board this idea, if you work hard.
Yeah, there's some aspirations.
And so there was, and then in that conversation, it reminded me of that optimism which we had, that positive, and also, and we talked earlier, drive.
Yeah, it was because don't forget, parents have come from wherever they come from, and they're instilling you this work ethic. They're grafting. They're not signing on or anything like that. They're working hard. They're grafting hard.
Because you also had to go get a part-time job as well. You couldn't just stay at home.
That was amazing. I mean, I worked at the KFC at Firth Park. I was managing KFC. I did landscape gardening. I did all sorts of little jobs in between. I worked on a farm. So your dad wouldn't have you sitting at home in the 6-week holiday.
No.
We played his fair share of football, but you had to put some work in as well.
Yeah.
And so when people see you now, so I'm a big into work ethic.
Yeah.
I'm massive. It means a lot to me. And so I knew the work ethic came from my father, what he instilled in not just me, my brothers as well, and my sister.
And you did see it around you all the time, didn't you? And then when you at you're at school, you're at college there, and you've got these other people around you who all sort of like the same as you, which is they want to get on. They're telling you, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that.
Yes.
And many of the people I knew, similar to what you just said there, they did go off to London.
They did. They did.
Many went off to London.
I think also in my family, my eldest brother's a doctor, and it was a doctor, and he aspired to be a doctor, became a doctor, and so that was like a benchmark. That you thought,
I can.
It's possible. But he was denied opportunities in England to be a doctor.
Because you had opportunities to be a doctor.
So he went back to Jamaica, went to UWE, became a doctor there, and ended up in the States. So for many, many years in the States. But it just showed you that they wouldn't let you to medical school back then. A lot of the times. There was lots of barriers to entry.
And I think, lots and lots of barriers there. So although I'm saying back in the day there was an optimism, there was a drive, there's also lots of knocks on the way.
Massively.
And those knocks there for some people were really quite sort of like traumatic for them.
They very much were. So but seeing him develop and go and find another way into the profession, kind of, you don't realise at the time, but it's instilling you there is a way, and you just got to find a way. Just because doors are shut off to you does not mean that's the end of the story.
That's the end of the story.
So and we apply that in everyday life now, I guess. But, sorry.
No. I'm
carry on. So at 17, I did my A-levels. I didn't do as well in my A-levels as I wanted to. I was a borderline good student, so I left school at 18, I think it was, 18 obviously. And I just thought, well, what am I going to do? I didn't do my A-level, didn't do well in my A-levels, and I thought that was the end of the world. Really. I remember putting my books behind the settee and think, I've never seen those again. So I was a bit disappointed in that. I was down on myself a lot at that point. And then I managed to get a job. So I was interviewing in the paper, Sheffield Star, Thursday night, selling industrial chemicals. I thought, what the hell is that?
They're all classified. You have to look really keen in those days because there's really fine print.
And the interview was in Rotherham at the Classic Cinema, and I thought, what's that about? So I walked down the Classic Cinema. To get to Rotherham, you had to go down the Wicker, get the 6-9 bus. So that's what I did. On the way down, interestingly enough, I met a good friend of ours growing up, and he said, "Where are you going, Dave?" And I said, "I've got an interview, but I'm running a bit late, so I might go back home." He said, "No, man, go to the interview because you never know, you might get the job." And I thought, if he didn't encourage me to go, I would not have gone. But he encouraged me, and I went, and I ended up going for the interview. And I remember the guy. I said, "What's industrial chemicals? What's that mean?" He go, "Oh, you go around knocking on business doors and selling bleach, disinfectant, and that kind of thing." So I said, "Do I get a company car?" And he said to me, "No." He said, "We've never employed anybody like you before, so we're not sure."
Like you before?
Yeah, we've never employed a black guy. He said, it was just the words. His name's Tony Appleton. God, bless him, because he gave me an opportunity.
Yeah, he gave you a chance.
And he said, "I'll let you know by the time you get back home." I got back home. Back then, phones weren't a big deal. Nobody had not many people had phones. We had a phone, and he called me and said, "I'm giving you the job." So I got the job. In the first 3 months, I literally walked. I did a bit of training, but then I walked around the streets of Sheffield, just just knocking on doors.
Because I know some people have said to me when I've mentioned your name, they said, "Oh yeah, I remember David when you used to be
that's
knocking on the door."
People thought, "What's he up to?" I had a big sample case. It was like a suitcase. It was, but it was massive. And I used to walk around to businesses, knocking on people's doors. I remember Sammy Barber helped me a lot because I'd leave a lot of my samples there, and the ladies were coming by. I even got my mum to buy the stuff, so just to make it seem as if I was doing well. So I was clearly desperate, and I wasn't very good. I wasn't very good. But I think the company, they were based in York, in a place called Easingwold. I think they saw that I was trained.
Yeah.
And they gave me a car because I was trained. Yeah. We talked about this, the Allegro. Yeah. In that'd be 1979.
The old Austin Allegro.
Austin Allegro. So I had that, and obviously I had that for 3 or 4 months. Then I got an Opel Kadett, and then
you were coming up in the world. Opel
I was coming up,
yeah.
I was coming up, and then they gave me a Capri. Well, back those days, 1980, 81, to get a brand new Capri.
Hey, you're sporty, aren't you?
And I remember thinking, I was nervous because I knew the community I came from, not many people had brand new cars.
No.
But I was given one. Yeah. I don't know if you know a film called Trading Places.
Yes.
With Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Right. So imagine me being Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these guys who I worked for were super rich guys in York.
And did you feel out of place?
It was yes and no. Yes, definitely. When I went to York and Easingwold, I thought, what is this? It's like the countryside. I didn't know anybody didn't see anybody look like me at all. But I always felt comfortable going back to Pittsmore and Burngreave and where I was from.
Yeah.
And even when I started to work, I always would go to towns and go to, like, Leicester. I'd go to, what's called place in Leicester? I forgot it now for a minute. I'd go to Highfields.
Highfields, yeah.
And then I'd go to, if I went to Nottingham, I'd go to Ice and Green and Meadows and the St Anne's. And if I went to Leeds, I'd go to Chapeltown. I went to Bradford, I'd go to... I knew where to go first to get my centre of gravity, so to speak, where I could be comfortable. Yeah. And then I would branch out from there.
And maybe there is an element of that, if you take that in a metaphorical sense, which is, or psychological sense, you need to find a sort of centre of gravity. A connection where you feel rooted in that, which gives you strength to then go out. Because in the end, if you in any success, you have to go out. I mean, you used a little a line last week where about...
if you're not living close to the edge.
Well, yes.
It's a great line. Yes. If you're not living close to the edge, then you're taking up too much room.
Yeah. And there's an element of you where you've got to be on the edge, haven't you? If you're going to go, if you're going to grow.
Right. So I've read that in the book. It's not my quote, by the way. Anyone listening to this, it's a book I read called Living on the Edge about the people in Winslow and Manchester. Yeah. They wrote a book, and I think it's a great line because it amplifies that. Look, most people like to be comfortable in life and sit in the centre of a circle, as it were, and comfort, But the real action, the real test of your resolve is at the edge of that circle.
Yeah.
And at the edge of life where it's testy.
Yeah.
And you test yourself. And so when you get comfortable when in that up the edge, you then realise that becomes your new centre.
And is that something you feel as if, if you broaden it into, Lungani asked that question about from school to now, is that something you've carried, has been a feature of your life there?
Yeah.
In terms of be it your business world or be it in your social world, your leisure world?
Absolutely, because I've always tried to test myself. Yeah. I've never really sat, if I look back and look what I've done in life, I've kind of stretched myself in the sense that, no, I want to see what it's like over there. I want to go to places that make me grow. I don't want to feel comfortable. I get bored quite easily. So I always want to be, if I learn to dance or learn a language or learn the piano or learn saxophone, I'm always trying to test what I can do and whether I can do it just for the sake of that, see if I can, because I believe we're all capable of doing much more than we end up doing. And so I've always wanted to be a person who, knowingly says, I can do a variety of things, not just one. Yeah, so I've always been like that. So I have a multitude of things that I kind of enjoy as well.
So if somebody was to ask you, how do you class yourself as? Because this is the thing, I
confused.
Confused. Sorry. So, like if somebody was to say, who is David?
Yeah. Chauncey, it's a good question because I don't know. I'm certainly driven.
Yeah.
I'm 65, but I'm still as driven as I was when I was 22. You know, there's many things I want to accomplish and to do.
So 22, you want to be successful. Whatever successful is.
22. Well, I've always.
Or is it? I don't know what 22.
Question.
I can't remember what 22 was.
I just knew that at 22, I thought I'd swum the channel. Yeah, I'd got a job.
Yeah.
When a lot of people were employed. Yeah. So I had already achieved a lot at 22.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking and saying to myself many times over the years, everything else is a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably done a lot. I'd probably done as much by the time I was 28 as most people have done in their life.
Yeah. And maybe as well, given our background, that actually a part of us could have said, you know what, if I get a decent job, I'm able to get myself a nice house, meet a nice partner, get a nice house, and able to get a car, live in a comfortable area. I've made it. Well, we did have those sorts of, that was our ceiling as such there.
That was it. But I thought to myself, that was never, I knew I couldn't work ultimately. Well, I'll go back in the story. Let me go back because otherwise I'm jumping ahead here. So I worked for the company for 7 years. And I became manager, area manager, all the kind of trappings. I actually went back to night school and because I was disappointed with my exam results, remember? So from 82 to 86, I did Polytechnic, so Sheffield, Richmond College and the Polytechnic and did an HND Business Studies. I had 1 year to go to qualify and do a degree and I said, no, I'm out. I was jumped out at 86. I never went to my graduation because I started to, because of the stuff I'd read when I was younger, the Malcolm X's, the James Baldwins, the Tucson Overtures, I had this kind of, I was Stokely Carmichael kind of character. The system is all over the place. I'm defiant. I was a very defiant guy. And so I knew that I don't need a degree to prove who I was or for validation. And so I was at that kind of mentality. So I left my beautiful job, a fantastic job, and said, I'm going to do this on my own. You know, on my terms. And the company I worked for was the best company I could have ever worked for. They left me alone. They let me get on with it. But it wasn't enough. You know, it wasn't enough.
But maybe, you know, that sort of like, that sort of reading you did there, which is, I don't need your validation, is also another part of, you know, I need to do something for me.
Correct.
You know, I don't need, and for a lot of people, well, I'm talking about a lot of people, I'm talking about, you know, guys like ourselves there, that growing up in Britain as young black guys there, as young black adults, they'll actually, you know, just, I mean, I said that before about that notion of being thankful. You know, thankful that I've got this good job, as if, you know, we have to be thankful for something, and actually that's not what it should be.
Correct. I'll tell you what, there's a seminal moment as well. Like I said, I was a football player, and I remember going for South Yorkshire trials at 17. I'm in between my A-levels, I'm at lower 6, and I went to Westfield School. There was let's say 40 boys on trial, South Yorkshire boys, and you had to pick 24. That day, I probably played the best football I've ever played, ever played. And every one of the players said to me as we came off the pitch, you should have your first name on the team sheet, first name on the team sheet, first name. And I knew I'd done well. But I got in that dressing room, and you sit in a dressing room and you wait to be called. Do you know, out of 24 names, my name never got called. I remember then I'd said to myself, I'm never going to ever go for another trial. I'm never going to be judged by anybody else. And that's really affected me in terms of all my life, you know, because I knew if you left it to other people, they would put you in categories. And I knew that if I worked for someone, I'd have been sacked a lot of times because I wasn't the guy to play this role. I just wasn't that guy. So I knew it ultimately, no matter what it was, chemicals, I know very little about chemicals. I just can do it.
But what you did have, though, is that drive that takes you into, you know, that notion of you take a step into the unknown. And there's a confidence which has to be had to do that.
Definitely.
And for, again, a lot, I mean, you know business, you know, obviously there, that for a lot of business is confidence.
It's really confidence. But one of the sayings I learned in sales is every no means nearer to a yes. And once you experience no's, you don't mind getting no's anymore. So whether it's asking for this, asking for that, that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
So I was never afraid when someone said no to me. It meant that it's another avenue. And I also learned a lot of, don't be limited by other people's limitations. Just because they can't do it or they don't know how to do it doesn't mean you can't do it. So I learned a lot of things in my sales journey that propelled me to kind of think the way I do think.
Yeah.
And so I'm always looking for young people, like I said, to come on, you can do this because.
And as you're talking there, because so often we talk about, we were brought up with this notion of qualifications, and actually qualifications are important.
Yes.
But actually, what you're also saying there is about the qualities you have as a person. How do you grow those qualities? So that they become real attributes.
Well, what I've noticed is, and I've learned this maybe a few years ago, that I think communication skills is really key in life, and I didn't realise they don't teach communication skills at all until I don't know, second year of uni or whatever. I think it's absolutely essential to learn how to talk to people respectfully, and because that's where the opportunities lay. And by having if I told you the amount of opportunities I've had simply by talking to people.
You were saying downstairs that you could be in that room there and you could go and talk to someone for a minute or whatever it is there, and that's a part of and there was a projection of self, isn't there? Which actually is quite scary.
Absolutely. But also, like I said to you before, Don, remember you've got there's a saying by Eleanor Roosevelt, nobody makes you feel inferior without your own permission. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So I know when I'm going to situations, it's on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not afraid to be, in front of people, whether they've got degrees, doctorates, PhDs, because I can qualify myself as good as anyone. I might not know the subject as deeply as they do.
Yeah.
But I can have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so that really stems from, just having the ability to talk, get rejected, talk again, go again, and just keep going. And that's really what that's about. Sorry.
You were saying something about, kind of being able to deal with rejection. What does that look like?
Rejection is like when somebody, imagine you want to ask a girl out and they say no and all your friends are watching. I've done that. That's
that when we were sixth form was full of that.
I do joke around sometimes and say the person I'm married to, she was the 100th person on the list.
No, you're not listening.
No, it's a running joke. It's a running joke. The 99 rejected me. I have that joke. But no. I think it's just a human condition, the rejection, and we're fearful of it. And we live in a world, I think, where society is trying to make everybody fearful of everything.
Yeah.
And there's a great book I read, another book called Index of Fear. And it's how society programs you to be fearful and scared. And so your natural human running around as a kid is lost because we're scared of this, scared of this. And most of it, like I said, it never ever.
But, again, back, your upbringing there in Burngreave, similar to my own upbringing in St Anne's, Nottingham, there is an element of feeling scared. There's a lot, you're sort of like hemmed into a small area, and then every time you venture out, there's a difficult encounter. You go and play football, there's a difficult encounter. You go there, and all these things feed into sort of a sense that actually you can't do this, and so on, and that can then become your adult self. It can, we talked earlier about going walking, and when you joined us in walking group 2014, we're along with Mark and Maxwell, we put the group together in 2004, really because we wanted to nearly overcome that. That actually something as simple as walking in the countryside that we could do.
And it's a beautiful experience as well.
And you said before about being in a nice setting and being able to do it. Why, if you work hard, why can't you then at the end of the week go to a nice place there, which isn't your normal place, and not feel, as if you shouldn't be there? Because that's often what's given to us, isn't it? Absolutely. You shouldn't really be there. You should stay in that lane over there, in that sort of area or whatever it might be, doing this type of life.
So sorry.
No, I was going to say, what in your growth area, from then to now, what has surprised you about your own resolve?
I think what's surprising about unresolved, nothing's really surprised me. I just think to myself, there are times when I've doubted myself, and the opportunities have come to me, and I've missed the opportunity because even though I'm confident, very confident, I've kind of doubted myself. And sometimes what's happened is I've not had the people around me to give me the talk and to say encouragement, because when you're talking about some of the figures that we're talking about and the ambitions, you also need people around you who can understand your ambitions. Yeah. And when I've not had that, I've looked back, not blamed anyone. I've looked back and thought, you needed to be in another circle of people who would have encouraged you. Yeah. You know, and said that's an opportunity. And I've looked back now and I think, but I was there at the spot in Mayfair and Marylebone Road and all the beautiful places, and opportunities were presented to me, and I thought, no, but I'm from Burngreave and I'm from Pittsmore.
So it's still there, isn't it? Yeah. It's still there. That all of those things there.
Massively.
And someone said to me, a young businessman who you've sort of like mentored, and he sort of said, you know, being a black businessman is quite lonely.
Very lonely. It's hard to emphasise how lonely it can really be, because your conversations are restricted. You've got your friends who you love dearly, but the conversations can be restricted because when you're talking about the sums of money involved in business, it's hard to talk about, I don't know, £3 million when somebody's getting XYZ. It's very difficult for them to relate, so you find you don't have the conversation. And you want to build your community, you know it's about economics, and you know if we pulled our resources together, but it's easy to say it, but to understand it. And I'm one who I've always been a community minded person. I've got 6 brothers, like I said, and I knew when I was young that if we pulled our resources together totally and stopped being individuals, with a greater good would come from us pulling our resources, and then you do it on a community level, and that's the way you build.
But you've also got an element of that there. If you talk about, if you're in that world you're in of business there, and when you've got lots of different skills which support business, and you can then have those conversations, can't you? Those conversations and those settings there where you're talking about, there's an opportunity here. You know, this is beginning to open up. We could go down this road. You and I could do this together there. You've got that thing, I've got that thing there. Let's do this there. And, you know, I get the impression from what you just said there, that's not been there.
It's not been there.
On occasions where it would have been great to have been part of something.
In fact, what's interesting, one of my business partners now is a guy, same background, same everything. I met him 35 years ago in a kitchen in London. And we became firm friends. I've watched his kids grow up. He's watched my children grow up. When I used to go to Jamaica, I'd visit his mum and he'd visit my dad, and we'd give this to my mum, give that to your dad. We became that close. And he's my business partner in Sheffield today. You know, we're doing some fabulous buildings and whatnot. But so that collaborative effort means something to me. But only the reason why it's him, and he's a good guy, is because he understands, you know.
Because it is a particular field, isn't it? You know, as you said, you can't have that conversation. You know, my business is education, so I can talk that. I can't talk business with you and understand it in terms of the wherewithal, and yet, you know, we need it. And it's good to see that actually young people are beginning to actually see that.
Absolutely. No, that's really important. Sorry.
I was going to say, is there a universality in terms of just the business? You say your business is in education, and David's his business is in his business.
Yes.
You know.
I think that everything applies in the same way, to be honest with you. You can grow. I say business is about making profit, and I think business, for me, it's more about showing people what can be done. So one of the reasons why I'll always be in business is I want young people to realise that your place can be in business the same as anybody else's. It's really important for me that the economics of this world are passed down to our people, and because without it, you're at the margins a lot of the
without
times.
Economics is power.
Yeah,
when you're employing people, when you've got, you look around the world there, and you increasingly seeing individuals who have got X and they can control.
They're controlling, and that's what's happening. So I just want this little part of Sheffield. One day somebody said, you know what, there was a guy who used to live in Sheffield and he did X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And he didn't just settle for X, this and that. He managed to, from these beginnings, he did whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know if I told you the story of how I got into be the company, how the company started. That was about when I decided to pack my job in. I went to the bank, like TSB, and I said, listen, I need £3,000. I had no money, by the way. Yeah. I was a bit of a, what's the right word to say now? I was a bit of a gambler at the time.
Gambler?
Oh, did you know that?
Yeah, well, you're Pokemon.
Oh, no, I was, I got into a phase where I was it horses, casinos, I did.
You like the adrenaline then?
I realised as in my young days, even though I earned a lot of money, I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
I had cars given to me, so I should have lots of money, but I didn't have any money, and because I was the adrenaline junkie. I'm not fully changed now.
Which is probably a good thing with the business. Well, it's good. It's good. Deal, isn't it?
Good. It's good and bad, because if you don't control the adrenaline, you can actually game over. Game over. So, but what I did was I went to the bank and asked the manager, Mr. Bergen, Lloyd's TSB at Pittsmore, for £3,000. He basically said to me, look, I'm not going to give you £3,000, but show me that you can write a cash flow projection. So I went home, because I was doing business studies at the time, so I knew about cash flow projections. I also knew my sales, what I could bring in, because I'd been doing sales for 7 years. So I went home that night, did a cash flow projection, brought it back days later, said, there you are. And he said to me, we're still not going to give you the money. I said, why not? I've just brought you the projection you asked for. And he said, because what they say, he said, no, we're not going to give it to you. I then said, right, if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to get my mum and my brother and my father to close their accounts. So I had that about me.
Yeah.
I could talk to a bank manager like that at 26. So, and he gave me £3,000. And
did your mum and dad have a lot of money in there then?
No, just everybody in Pittsmore.
But you'd have said close your account.
Everybody in Pittsmore had the bank account at TSB back then. So that's how I started. I got £3,000. I used £2,000 to go to see Saracens to buy a car. I'd given my car up, remember? And I used £1,000 to go and buy stock. And I bought stock, and I'm still with that same company to this day. And 40 years later.
It's got quite a simplicity about it, isn't it?
It's very
Because
simple.
again, last week when the young guys were talking to you, I think they were wanting something which was really quite sort of like complicated. And you were going back, it's how do you do it? You just do it like this.
It's simple. There's no complications about it. You understood about margins, you understood about profit, you understood buy from here, sell from there. I would go to guys who are on the left side of whatever, doing illegal, and I'd say, look, I do it like this, you do it like this. There is not a great deal of difference. Why don't you just find something that you can sell on the right side of the field? So
they could have been selling chemicals instead of selling stuff on the street. Because when you were growing up, I remember one time I went up to Leeds and there was these young men outside.
They've got great skills.
They're in Chapeltown, and outside this pub, and we went in, and it was pouring down with rain. It was in February time. We were there for about 3 hours, came back out, they're still outside selling. I'm thinking, this is hard work, this is. Well, you could find different work.
Well, there's a great book called Freakonomics, which explains that phenomenon. You know the book?
Yeah.
It explains that people think that these guys are making so much money. They're not actually. They might have one or two guys at the top making whatever, but down at the bottom working day and night, they're making a pittance.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't make sense. And our guys normally at the bottom, they're not at the top.
Absolutely.
Right?
They're outside that shop in the cold and the rain there. And you think, you know what?
I see that all the time.
As you said, you could be selling chemicals. It doesn't sound as sexy.
But so business and that is so relatable, which is why you find that sometimes those kind of guys want to be close friends with the business guys, and the business guys sometimes edge over to that side. And so you find that it's about how you control yourself with thinking about money and how that works. It's not money that's bad, it's the love of money. Remember, it's not the money itself.
You were saying as well before about how for some people the love of money and also the show.
The show,
the element of show, because you know, and maybe that's confidence as well, isn't it? That, you know, I love it in American Gangster.
Oh, one of my favourite films.
Denzel Washington and Chetwell Efre, and he's the brother, and he goes out and buys a really fancy coat, and Denzel gets, and Denzel goes mad, and he actually convinces Denzel to wear it, doesn't he?
That was the 1971 Fraser Ali fight.
Yes,
he was in front of the
up to that point, it's like keep it on the low.
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly it. So there's a way to be. I mean, I used to get stopped by the police every day, literally, every day. We're driving nice cars.
Yeah.
So I understand all what people go through, because I've been through. Having to explain yourself. Why have you done this? Why have you done that? Whose this car it is? I had to produce documents at Westbourne Police Station regularly.
Well, you've even got it with your house, haven't you?
Also,
I mean, so even moving to your house, because that story again is like, what? Yeah, there you are. You've got a lovely house there in a nice area, and you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, my kid, early days of living in where I live now, and the kid, I used to have the woman before, they were doctors, and they had a panic alarm system, only down at child level, and one of my kids pressed the panic alarm, and the police just turned up at the house within a minute. They swarmed the place. Yeah, and I said, what are you doing here? He said, a panic alarm's gone off. I said, it's my house. I'll just prove it. Can you prove it's your house? And I'm thinking, shit. So I've had all that. That was 1991. So you go through lots of stuff. I don't think people realise that, they might know you or think they know you and see you around. They don't realise you go through pretty much the worst crap that you have to deal with in life because of who they think you are, right? And people think they don't understand that, and it's hard to explain to people, even with your family, like the crisis that we have to go through, the same as everybody else's crisis and whatnot, and with struggles of mental health.
Well, people sometimes can see success, can't they? In a very narrow sense.
That's right.
But actually, you know, you've done well. Somehow that's supposed to
alleviate you from everything else.
We're open to the same stuff. All the stuff which we have is still there.
Yeah. What is success, though?
Well, it's a good question because I've always struggled with that. Success to me, looking after your family as best you can, going out, doing an odd day's work, if that's what you want to do, and just making sure you live a decent life with people and you live a positive existence. That's success. Don't let everybody fool you and tell you that success is having 20 million quid, because it's not, right? And that's the lie that's been sold a lot of the time. We're fed this lie. And it really bothers me a lot, but that's not successful to me. Yeah. I see people who don't have stupid amounts of money, but I think, God, you're a good guy.
But if you take on the reverse of that, isn't it? For most people, obviously having some material goods and being comfortable is a really important thing. But for most people, their troubles are about relationships.
Yes.
They've either not got relationships, or the relationships they have got. Yeah. Are actually quite fraught and full of trauma, etc. there. So actually being able to develop good relationships with people and different levels of relationship, that could be with your intimate other, or with your family, or with friends, then, if you're able to do that, that's a part way there, isn't it?
I think, for me, I've got so many, really, and I don't say this lightly, I've got so many good friends in so many different places that I feel really blessed, and I have a lot of gratitude for knowing that I've got people. I think if I was in any kind of real bother, I could call on
So
them.
Would you say you've got a full life then?
I would say it's as full as anybody else's. There's nothing I want. I feel very satisfied. But my real point of I still work, and I still work every day. But my real point of working every day is I can give more. Yeah. Because I'm a real believer, real believer, that we came here with nothing, and guess what? We're going to go with nothing. Yeah. And so I understand very clearly that, yes, you want to look after your family massively. That's important to me, and make sure everybody's all right. But they also know, and I tell them regularly, you're not getting it all. I'm massively, that's important to me, because I've got a community, that's important to me. I've got other people who I see around who are in need. I've got many other people, and they're a part of what I want to be and what I want to support, and organisations. So what I tend to do is look at an individual, look at people and think, let me look what qualities do they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do those qualities support what I like? And if they do, I will help them. And I've always been like that.
So, what's your support network like?
Very, very good in the sense that when I've had troubles, which I've had in business and in personal, there are one or two people who I can go to, who I think to myself, it's not just that it stays with them, but I trust their judgment and they're prepared to tell me what they want, what I need to know. Without it might not be something I like to hear, to be honest with you, but I've had that situation. I've been very blessed to work with two of my brothers for the longest time. My PA is my niece. Without those three people around me, and a beautiful wife, and good children, without those, they're not children anymore, by the way, just in case they're listening to this. But without that support, it's a struggle for anyone. Yeah. But I feel I've just got that. Yeah.
So, because you're talking about, like a beautiful wife, how important has that grounded you in business?
I tell you what, since I met my wife, I was 21. I'm 21 years old. I was 21 or something like that. Or she was 21. I was 22 or 3. What I knew is that without that support system that enables me to be the person that I am and wanted to be, it would not have worked. Because they never said no. When I had ideas, crazy ideas about life and doing what I needed to do, they never said no. Even though some of the things I want to do were maybe a little bit risky for some people, I don't think I've ever heard them say no to me. Never, ever.
And that's helped you. So, when you've got that sort of support behind you, what does that give you? Does it sort of
boost your confidence?
Yeah, because we're back to that, aren't we? Like the idea of confidence.
It boosts your confidence, and because what it does, it's like you have in life anchors and propellers. Yeah, we do, and we have people around us who are anchors and some are propellers. I had a beautiful propeller. Yeah, who helped me to kind of lift off. So, but I think where that comes from, when you start with pretty much zero, you know where the bottom is. And you're comfortable at the bottom. So whatever material things you have, we can always go back and survive from the bottom. And I'm not saying life is perfect, so don't anybody think life is completely perfect. Because you've got to life.
No, I don't think you've said that.
You go through life like with ups and downs.
Yeah, absolutely. Loads of ups and downs there. But I mean, I'm very interested in this notion about confidence.
Yes.
Because I mean, I'm sure in the world of business, you meet lots of people who that's what they've got. And you think to yourself, I don't really know. Beyond that, what have you got?
I remember there's some guys I used to know. I used to pick them up for football back in the day, and they didn't drive cars or anything. And but one particular guy, I'll call him Peter because that's his name. I have no idea. And I remember we'd sit outside his house maybe an hour or two just discussing life itself. At the time, he was a butcher, and I remember saying to him, "Peter, why are you a butcher?" And he said, "What do you mean, Dave?" I said, "This world is made for you. He's eloquent, he can talk, he's a good-looking kind of guy." And I said, "It's made for you." And, a couple of months later, I got a letter through the door to give him a reference for a job. He got the job. A couple of years later, another reference. He became another job, manager of a company. Then he set his own company up. He now employs, at the time of the company he worked for, employed 30 people. And now he's split up with his partner, but now he works and he's doing very, very well. Good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, one of my dearest friends. But I could see I could see what he had.
Yeah.
He just needed something to tell him. Get going. You're not a butcher. So
I wish I'd met you when I was 22.
No, that's the thing.
I can tell you another guy was, I used to sell at Lancashire Europa. Mark was the mechanic. And I'd go there and sell him chemicals, and he'd say to me, "Dave," years later, "Dave, I'm thinking of doing something in sales. What do you think?" "You've got it." I just say to him, "You've got it."
But you're saying that, and I joked there about I wish I'd met you when I was 22. But I wish that, and I'm sure there's other guys like me, that there were more of us at that time, and just simply just chewing the fat there with lots of dreams and whatever there, and then actually you feed off one another a bit.
What's interesting about that, I know you're into your educationalist and Don and worked a deputy at the college, and I remember my guy who taught me, and he was just a regular guy, lots of confidence, lots of charisma at the Polytechnic. Do you know now, years later, he was just a regular business studies teacher. He's the Vice Chancellor of Wolverhampton University. Yeah. And I look at him and I think, you just got plenty of chat. Yeah. It wasn't like it was Einstein. He just had plenty of chat. And I read in the paper, Vice Chancellor, Tangerstown, 300 grand a year.
But it's interesting because I remember when I got that job and I was applying for, and I was doubting myself, and I was down in London at my brother's, and I had started to do a draft application, and I'd left it on the computer. And I got back home to Sheffield. And then he rang me up and he said, you left your draft on the computer. I hope you don't mind, but I read it. I said, oh, yeah. He said, are you serious? He talks like that. He said, are you serious? I said, of course I'm serious. He said, well, you're going to have to do better.
All right.
And you know what?
Yeah.
It was the best advice out. It wasn't saying, if you want it, go for it. And then I went for it. And when he said to me, you're going to have to do better, I went for it. And there were 4 of us all at the same level at the same institution, and one guy, there were 3 of us were white people, and this one other guy, he thought that it was his, and I decided for my brother, I'm going to go for it, and I went for it, and soon as we had 7 assessments. From the first assessment, I thought I got this.
Right, yeah.
You know when you're like, I was on, it's like that football match.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that football. No. I was on fire. And it was my brother who had prompted me, which was sort of siblings saying to me, you go for it properly. Don't do a half-hearted.
Step up.
Step up. Step up. Go for it. Because sometimes you can hold yourself back and you actually then start saying, oh, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. I was prepared to go all the way. And we'll see what happens.
That's
and sometimes you have to go all the way with everything you've got. You've got to give it all there, and you might still get knocked back.
All the chips on the table.
All the chips.
The
third of 8.
Yes, about that. I always say about that because when I was in school as an infant, and the people would ask me how many siblings you got, I didn't know what to say because I didn't really know about the ones in Jamaica because they weren't living with us.
Yes.
So I sometimes fluctuate by saying 6, 8, whatever, but essentially there's 8 of us.
You grew here.
Yes.
We had everyone had this.
Everyone had that.
Everyone had that. You said this one. They are Jamaica.
My question being, how much of your father do you see in you?
100%. Yeah, because the reason why is because he was always trying new things. So my dad was a steel worker. He had his own little kind of mechanic. We dug a pit at our house in the garage, created the garage. We'd work on people's cars. He was an advanced driving instructor. He did. He was an
entrepreneurial man.
He was an entrepreneurial. So I'm not really shocked that I do business. I'm in business because I watched him do business and I watched him get on with people, and so when I'd go back to Jamaica and see my mum and dad and whatnot, and I'd go to Jamaica and I'd see him meet. We're going to see the lawyer today. I thought, Dad, you were a steel worker in Sheffield. Now we're going to see the lawyer, and you're conducting the meeting. And we built an house in Jamaica, and my dad got the drawings, and he's telling me where the pit's going, where this. I'm thinking, I'm watching this guy. I'm thinking, I remember you was a steel worker back in Sheffield. Yes, you did all these other bits and pieces, but so I think a lot of it is from that.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
I love the story you told me about your dad when you went back to Jamaica.
Yeah,
because it stayed with me forever.
Kids.
Yeah, about don't leave it too late.
Yeah. So my dad was. I remember the business was in its full throttle, and I remember my dad knew I was working really hard back in England. He'd gone back to Jamaica to live with my mum. And I remember him saying to me, he knew I was working hard, but he said, whatever you do, don't leave it too late. I did not really know what he meant, but I remember coming back to England at the time, and I remember working hard as usual. And then I remember there was a TNT wagon outside, and I was handballing boxes of chemicals onto this wagon. And it just dawned on me, don't leave it too late to enjoy your own life. He didn't say the last bit, but I interpreted it as that. Because he's out in Jamaica chilling out, and I'm there busting a gut.
Yeah.
But life is about, don't forget to enjoy it along the way. Because we can all, say we're doing X, Y, Z. But I take, and I've enjoyed my life. If it ended tomorrow, I'd say to my friends, I've told all my friends, I said, listen, at my funeral, you tell him that Dave had a great time, right? You make sure everybody knows he had a wonderful time, because I've done so many different things. So even though I'm still working, because I love what I'm doing, the journey, I enjoy every day. I wake up and I enjoy every single day, literally. There is not a day. Yeah, you have your issues, don't get me wrong, you have your problems, I'm not saying, but I look forward to the day.
Yeah.
I wake up, I spring out of bed, and I do my meditation.
Are you the 5 o'clock man?
I used to be 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
That's a book by, I forgot his name now. I forgot his name for a minute. But yeah, 5 a.m. club in lockdown. That was it. A friend of mine introduced me to the book, and off you go. Get up early, and do your meditation, and look at the day and think, right, off we go. And I don't have naps in the day. It's like, yes, I have some rest time or whatever.
It's a full day then.
It's a full day till like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. But you just on it. Different spaces, different places, but you're on it. And your ideas, my brother said to me today, you're the thinking man. There's literally not 10 minutes where I'm not thinking about something. Literally. It could be this, what's the next project, what am I going, where am I going next week, It's like that.
What motivates you?
Just trying to achieve, stretching boundaries, and for my community, showing people that's possible. You can get in these spaces. You got to work. That's my only motivation. It's not money. It never was money, to be honest with you. It was always about enjoyment. The money comes when I meet young people and I say, "What do you want to do?" And they say, "Well, I want a load of bag of money." I think, "No, I'm not sure about that." That comes afterwards. You have to find something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy. My enjoyment is talking to people. I love people. I love people.
Because one of the things that, when I filmed him at the event last week, I said, he says, I love to chat. I love to chat.
I do like talking.
Hey, let me tell you, I love a good conversation. I'm a believer that there is not enough of that.
No.
That's why I think...
I do like to, I like to be in spaces where if I was somewhere and everybody was quiet, I think it's time for me to go.
I know what you mean.
I get the quietness as well.
Yeah.
I like being on my own.
Yeah.
A good conversation is really important. And, maybe we've almost said the art of it's gone, but again, looking back on it, I said it last week. Who was it now? It was Clive Murray talking about when he was growing up and how he'd grown up in Bolton. And every Saturday afternoon, his uncle would come across, and they'd be in the front room, and they'd have this talk.
Yeah.
And that was sanctuary for them.
Yes.
These guys they're working wherever they're working there.
Yes.
But come Saturday afternoon there, and I don't know about you, but I have memories of that, of the 70s in that front room. My dad would be there, and he'd have his friends there, Al Khan and this man and that man then, and they have the rum there and they're talking but it was soothing for them. It was balm to the soul. Good conversation.
We didn't have the rum. Definitely not.
My dad was a rum.
But one thing I knew when I was at school and came home from school, there was always people in the house.
Yes.
And I missed that. I don't know.
Because it doesn't happen the same way, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I don't know. But I'm like that. I don't care who comes to my house. I remember when I got the house, people said, they phoned me up, "Why you in?" I said, "Just turn up." I don't. At least you'll get a cup of tea. You might get something.
But that's died off now. People turn up because now we've got the mobile phone. Everyone's texting you beforehand. Whereas before, when you didn't have your phone and people didn't have a phone, the only way you could find out about anybody was to walk round to the house. And people would come round to your house.
That sense of community where we all lived pretty much not far away from each other. My dad's generation and my mum's, people would just turn up.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's almost like you're going to make an appointment with the Pope.
You've been invited, I know.
and I don't like that.
I like it when people knock on your door. I'm just walking by.
I want people to just turn up at my house, and I will welcome them.
Yes.
And you can be, if I'm rushing out, listen, I've got 10 minutes, I've got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
But come in.
Yeah.
So I think for our community, that's the one of the biggest things that is missing. We don't have relatively, not necessarily your best friends, but you don't have to be my best friend to come to my house. We just want to have a conversation, and that's how I think it should be.
So we usually end up with this thing of what's your thing?
What's my thing?
Yeah, what is that thing that actually puts you in the right space of mind? Like for wellness.
I would say for me, it's about being around positive people. And people with a ambitious mentality, and so I like people who've got ideas and want to stretch themselves, and so I like that kind of environment. People not just settled. There's another mountain we've got to climb. I like that. I like mountains to climb.
And so when is your book coming out?
I don't remember. Everybody keeps telling me. Everybody keeps asking me. They've asked me that. People have asked me that for 20 years. I probably will never get around to writing it. I started a script once a long time ago because I do think that the story has to be told. Of starting from literally zero, nothing, on behind the line, if you like, and then reaching what society would claim to be successful. I think that journey is important to
yeah, but in a way you are. I mean, you're telling your story to so many people, particularly young people.
Yeah.
That story is being told in a very animate way.
Yeah.
Where actually it's a personal, let me tell you this chapter.
It is.
And that chapter for that person at that time might be really, really what they need to read or hear or listen.
Yeah. So that's exactly correct, Don. I was just thinking to myself, sometimes to document things, you go back, and I read a lot, and autobiographies of people. I've always read them, and what motivated them, what got them to where they are now. And I've learned lessons from reading all sorts of books. I remember reading Sidney Poitier's book many, many years ago, from the Barmers or Viv Richards or whoever it is. I've read so many autobiographies, and somewhere along the line, those stories have inspired me. Most definitely.
I'm gonna ask you because something just popped in my mind. If I don't ask this, I mean, I think I'm gonna be kicking myself all the way home. How often do you sit with your kids and tell them your story up to now?
Right.
What are you?
Right. So
both of us.
Well, my kids have heard my story 1 million times over. Literally 1 million times over. Oh, not that one again, Dad. You're walking on the streets in Burngreave. That one. But I don't mind telling the story because it's my story. And so I think it's important they know that where they come from, how they're in a fortunate position in their stage of life, to be honest with you. Obviously, the story and the journey, the ups and downs, is not for everyone, because obviously there are parts of your children, they can feel under a lot of pressure. Most definitely. In fact, one of my sons who struggled with his mental health, I think he'd probably just he'd rather opt out of all that kind of thing. So I think it can be a blessing, but it can be a curse as well, to be honest with you, if the truth, because it's expectations. In fact, my kids live in Manchester, actually. And at first I thought, why are they all going to Manchester there? And it took me a little while to understand why. And once I'd reasoned it, I said, because they're in Sheffield. Are you Dave's son?
Don't be
Dave's
daughter. The child.
And they need to find their own kind of person. And that's all I get it. It's very important for them to be their own selves.
Don?
I don't think I tell them in the last 10 years as much as I should do. I think when they were growing up, they heard a story. But I've not told them much at all recently, because that's most of my sort of like conversations with my daughter, because she's got 3 children. You can't have that sort of one-to-one with them in the same way. With my son, I've not, I haven't said it much at all. but he's got a take on me, which is about, he looks at me now and he just say this, he says, you're more relaxed than you were. And I'm thinking, well, I was relaxed before. But clearly I wasn't in growing up. What they saw was something different. And I remember once saying to my daughter about 10 years ago, or maybe more recent than that, I said, be careful with the amount of work you're doing.
All right.
And she said, well, where do you think I got it from?
Right. Okay.
So we said it throughout this. Never been afraid of hard work, and there's a drive there, which you talked about that sixth form and people going to the accounts class. That's my memory of being 16, 17, 18 there, of guys like myself who were wanting to get on. And they wanted to get on in whatever field they were going to go into. And actually, it's really pleasing when my brother told me about the number of people who had got on in their own particular way there. So I think you've got to find a way. I mean, I think you're asking me that question. It's a really good question. I've got to, I've just read a text that my daughter's going to come around on Sunday for dinner, and I have to find 5 minutes with her.
Oh, really?
To actually say that. I'm actually going to watch football with my son on Saturday, and I think I'm going to actually pick up on what you've said there. And as ever, you always ask that's a really good question.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, what about you though?
I am so heavily invested in them.
That's good. How many kids have got?
I've got 3 boys, but one is in South Africa. But the 2 boys here with my wife, I'm heavily involved in their lives. To a point, I think it gets to under their skin.
Well, that's the fine margin, isn't it?
But this is the thing. I think because I didn't have that.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I think somehow it's that whole thing of saying, let's make as many memories as we can. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know. You never know. No, that's the thing. Yeah. Like sometimes with the best intentions, don't leave it. I mean, like we hear, it's like sort of like cliche, like don't leave for tomorrow what you can do today.
Well, don't leave it too late.
Don't
leave it too late.
Don't leave it too late.
I mean, I've got one at the moment. Mine not leaving it too late is about my 3 grandchildren. I feel I have a responsibility to share with them as much as what came before.
Yes.
That's
okay.
it.
Yes. I feel it quite acutely now.
What came before?
What became before, which is basically, my dad and that generation there, because they have they were
not connected.
Not connected. My kids were not really connected. They heard stories, second-hand stories. And I had a family get-together in August, and what was obvious there was that the elders were me, my 2 brothers, and my sister.
You guys are the elders.
The elders.
Yeah, wow.
Man, it pulls you up short,
It does, yeah. I know.
It pulls you up short.
On that score, I remember with my kids, I remember knowing it was a duty of mine to make sure they went to where their grandparents were born. So I remember taking them on a regular basis to Jamaica, because it didn't just happen with me. There was a line, and they need to know that, and they need to know that. And so I said, "Listen, you're the grandchildren of immigrants.
Yes.
Came to this country to work hard." So I've always reminded them that they're the grandchildren of immigrants, because in the narrative that we have today, you'd almost think it's a bad thing. No. We were the immigrants, or your dad was. So never forget it.
Yes. But there is. I mean, we're still on this one there. Even the story. I was talking with some people last week. I was talking to some people who got sent for and came here. That story there, and all of those stories, which are part of who our children and grandchildren are. It's not the whole, but it's a part of that. That's a story which could easily be going now, because these people, my brother was sent for, he was 60 now,
that's another
he's nearly
story.
70. So that story, because we never used to talk about it, because in them days you didn't talk about it. Never talked about it.
There's a subject there on its own.
That's it.
Because I hear so many people saying, something, I didn't know. we didn't know each other because it's like you came here, we found you have grown siblings and they don't know him.
And the relationships were all over the place.
Yes, we didn't talk, did we, about it?
No. I think that's probably a conversation for another day.
If we get someone in,
we need someone who's actually of that experience.
Of that experience,
There's plenty.
There's plenty of leap everywhere. All them guys are a little bit older than we are.
Yeah, fraction maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yes,
I think when I went to school, they were in the school. A lot of them came to the school I went to, and they were there for a year or two. They protected me so much.
When I went to secondary, it's exactly like that.
They came with a fearlessness, and took no rubbish. So I had to smooth right through school.
Because them Jamaican boys there, they could fight more than we could. And even going out, do you remember when you first started going out in the 70s, mid 70s that, them guys opened doors because they actually literally fought.
So I always pay a lot of respect to those guys, that generation, simply because they paved the way for me and us to live better lives. And they fought the fight that we were too young to fight. And so it's important for me that this fight, whatever the fight is on whatever level and ground, that we kind of keep battling. So to retire, for me, back to retire now would be pointless to me. Because I still have to fight for these guys. And I've got the kind of respectability to fight and say things in corners that I would not have been able to say when I was their age. So how could I not?
That's true.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me.
We could talk forever, so you're probably right now too.
I know. Let me tell you, it's been a joy for me. I mean, like if you've noticed, I haven't really said much. I've just been listening. It's like actually the conversation for the last 3 episodes for me has just been. I am a spectator. I'm just the guy who pushes
that may be
the buttons.
Probably saying, Donald, you talk too much.
No. For me, this is the thing. It's like what I am fed with is the people I admire and who I love. I mean, you guys, being part of that group. And just your experience for me, it enriches me.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
It's a real pleasure to, and it's probably advertising our own podcast, but I think what I think I'm experiencing is, you said it before, David, about good conversations. We've got the opportunity to have great conversations with people who've got incredible, beautiful stories to tell.
That's it.
You have
and the stories which they have to tell and share with us is about one which we should be proud of.
Yes.
Really proud. You were talking about growing up. I love what you said there about, there was a joy.
Oh, yeah.
There was a joy.
And there was a guy who used to live in my road 2 doors up. And he's from the Lang family, so he was a boxer, Tony Lang.
Kirtland.
Well, Kirtland lived up the road from us.
Oh, what a boxer.
And Tony Lang, his brother, he used to come round and he said, he used to always come round your house, and he said, I always came round at dinner time because your mum would cook.
Right.
And, in them days when people lived, 2 doors, 3 doors up there, the door was open. And then, whatever you're cooking, your mum would put a bit more tomato in it, and, you eat.
Illustrate.
Yes, and they would tell you off to see him.
I know you Kirtland Lang.
Oh yeah, 2 doors up.
One of my favourite ever boxers.
Yeah, he beat Roberto Duran.
He did. Yes. I remember the fight. Watch it recently.
Yeah, Kirtland Kirtland was our neighbours.
Terry Lawless was his manager.
Yeah, 2 doors up. 2 doors up he lived.
Oh no.
So we grew with them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
So you never learned how to?
No, I went boxing with Kirtland and Tony.
Wow.
But I gave up.
Yeah.
I let Tony beat me up.
That's why you went for
boxing. I didn't like boxing.
I never boxed as such, but the sport is I love the sport.
Yeah, no, I was like that.
I took martial arts.
Them guys could box. I mean, even as a 10-year-old, you looked at them and thought, they can box. Please don't let me go in the ring with them. So that's the only thing my dad ever sport-wise. He would say, come, we have to go to the boxing ring, and I go in, and I'm not doing this. I've got to take my book.
Wow.
Yeah, you say you went for the academic route.
Well done. It didn't work out too bad.
Yeah, you didn't work out too bad.
No, because he got hurt.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro.
Thank you. Great talking. I talked to you all afternoon. I've had a great day of talking. I've had a couple of hours with Delroy.
Yeah.
And now yourself.
You got a nice life, haven't you, Don?
Oh, the life's hard.
It's good. You're living the life. You're living exactly how you want to live. It's beautiful.
No, that's it.
Yeah, it's just, and it's just sharing as well.
What do you do then? I know you don't do this every single day, but you obviously do a variety of things. But that's part of enjoying life.
It is. I mean, sometimes. Yeah, it is. Today's been a great day because basically, it's just been meet up with Delroy. Went up to Meadow Hall, come back here.
Chaos and Meadow Hall,
I'm going to go back. I'm going to make myself a salmon pie.
Nice. And there's no time pressures.
No time pressures.
That's beautiful.
Yes. So, and you do different things all the time. But I mean, the conversation today has been brilliant.
Yeah, good.
And it's more than the conversation; it's the connections.
Yes.
You feel something.
No,
it is.
It is definitely the connection because, we don't get that.
We don't talk enough. I don't think about, and we're all. And even if we could talk even further, but there's all sorts of other feelings going on as approaching another age. We're obviously getting 60, going to 70, and then that things are going to start happening to you as you get older, and making sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I think as men, as black men, those conversations we don't have often enough. I'm sure we have them to a small group, but I just think we are gonna get older.
Well, we are.
No, that's it.
Yeah, and keep getting. I mean, I've got a friend of mine. He was come to my house every other day, and he was a fitness guy, marathon runner, whatever, cyclist, whatever. He ended up moving a couple of years ago to Preston, and he phoned me one day and he said, "Dave," I said, "You don't sound great, Everton." He was a fit guy. He said, "Well, they're trying to find out what's wrong with me." And it went on for a couple of months. In that phone, I couldn't hear his voice at all. Yeah. Turned out he'd got motor neurone disease.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Oh. And gone to Preston to see him, gone like this. And his wife phoned me up Friday. I'd seen him a couple of times. His wife phoned me up Friday. Thought she was going to say, "How's he doing?" Said he's passed away this morning. So I'm now helping to organise his funeral. So what I'm saying is, the point I'm making is, we know that death comes, but what I'm saying is, you it's about really understanding that, because I accept death.
Yes, you have to.
I accept. I don't know if there's a great book called Chasing Daylight. Mm-hmm. You know that book? No. Give you a quick synopsis of this book, right? There's a guy, he's the CEO of KPMG, true story, 20,000 employees, and he's the boss. He's in charge, going to meetings all over the place, running around all over, but he's the boss. Turns out he's getting a bit tired one day. He's only 50 odd. Getting tired one day. His wife says, "Look, something's not right." Blah, blah. Puts it off and off and off. He ends up going to the doctor. The doctor said, "Let me do some tests on you, whatever. Come back tomorrow." He said, "I can't. I've got meetings all over the world." He comes back. The doctor says to him, "Look, you've got 90 days to live. 90 days. You've got a brain tumour. Your death will be painless, but it's incurable. You've got 90 days. And that's all I'm telling you." He had to go away, figure out his life. He ends up deciding after a week to pack his job in, obviously, giving the reins to somebody else. Then he drew a circle of all the people he knew. On the outer circle was 1,000 acquaintances and people he knew through his working life. And as the circle got no narrower, there were his family in the middle. Mm-hmm. And he had to figure out what kind of death he wanted to have. And he ended up, he wanted to have a good death. And he decided to write the book in those 90 days. And he got to the end and his wife finished the book off. But the moral of the story, and the reason he was a golfer, and in golf, you play to the noon, let's say, and you're chasing the daylight because you want the round to finish before it goes dark. So that's why he's termed the book Chasing Daylight. Yeah. And I'd implore everybody to read it, because what happens is, this inevitability, we might have 20 years, or 30 years, he had 90 days. And it's really about this attitude of how do you approach this next phase of life. So I think it's really important for me as a community that you understand what's really going to happen and how we're going to approach it.
Well, they always said that to me today. They always said, when you're 20, you don't know how long you've got.
No.
And when you're 65, you don't know how long you've got.
Yeah.
You know
It's coming.
It's there.
So I just think to myself, these conversations or whatever are important to have. You know, they don't scare me. They scare some. But the more we talk about these things, the more we get the most out of living.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like that. It's about living.
Yeah.
It is about living.
Yeah.
It literally is about living.
And living the best it can be.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I'm into all that stuff.
Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and never miss an episode. Until next time, keep those conversations going and the clippers buzzing.